I can still hear the crowds. When I first stepped into RFK Stadium, I knew I'd found a home. The roar of the fans, the energy of the city, was unlike anything I'd ever experienced.
Not every historic stadium eventually meets a wrecking ball. Sometimes they're left empty and forgotten. Each one tells a story not only of the games and concerts it hosted, but of the communities that built them, the eras they reflected, and the legacies they left behind. By far, stadiums do not get more iconic than the historic Houston Astrodome. It is not merely a retired sports venue, but a monumental relic of the mid-20th century American ambition. It was an audacious blend of engineering daring, space-age optimism, and urban renewal. Opening in April 1965, the Astrodome earned the title of the 8th wonder of the world. It was the first fully enclosed, air-conditioned, multi-purpose dome stadium. Its construction forever changed the landscape of sports, entertainment, and architecture, while stamping Houston with a bold new identity. The dream belonged to Roy Hofheinz, a Houston politician and businessman. As a Houstonian, he was no stranger to the city's punishing heat and humidity. Hofheinz envisioned a climate-controlled arena unlike anything the world had seen. His determination secured Houston a Major League Baseball expansion team, then called the Colt 45s. The team was renamed to the Astros in tribute to the nearby NASA Johnson Space Center. Architects Herman Lloyd and W.B. Morgan, along with firm Wilson, Morris, Crane, and Anderson, were tasked with the impossible. What they created was a circular colossus crowned by a steel lattice roof spanning 642 feet, soaring 208 feet above the field. Inside, it could hold nearly 66,000 spectators, and it pioneered a new luxury: climate-controlled skyboxes. Miraculously, there were no obstructing columns. The roof did cause one distracting issue for players. The glare of the translucent panels blinded the outfielders, forcing them to be painted over. But when the natural grass withered inside the stadium, the solution led to an invention that changed sports forever. It spawned the creation of a synthetic surface that would be referred to as AstroTurf. The Astrodome became not just a stadium, but a laboratory of invention. Its legacy, however, lies in the history it hosted. It was the home for both the Astros and the Oilers. The University of Houston played the game of the century against the UCLA Bruins on January of 1968 and drew a record basketball crowd. In September 1973, the tennis world watched Billie Jean King defeat Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes. Muhammad Ali won all 4 matches he fought here. Elvis Presley performed, and in August 2005, when devastating Hurricane Katrina struck the southern US, the Astrodome famously became a refuge for more than 25,000 evacuees. But like many wonders of the world, time would eventually catch up to one of the greatest stadiums ever built. The Oilers played their last game at the Astrodome in December of '96 and moved to Tennessee in 1997. The Astros moved to Enron Field, now Minute Maid Park, in 2000. By 2009, the Astrodome lost its certificate of occupancy, closing its doors to the public. Today it stands in silence, waiting for the people of Houston to decide its next chapter.
Judge Roy presided over the greatest Houston party since Glenn McCarthy opened the Shamrock 16 years earlier.
When people think of stadiums, they often think of football and baseball and not speedboats. But on the shores of Virginia Key, the Miami Marine Stadium was once an icon of mid-century modernism. Dedicated in 1963, it was the first stadium in the United States built for powerboat racing. But its true wonder lies in its structure, a daring experiment in reinforced concrete that still feels futuristic today. The stadium was the dream child of Cuban-born architect Hilario Candela, an idea that he had at the young age of 28.
But there was nowhere, anywhere in the United States, a facility designed specifically only to watch power races.
He conceived a grandstand for 6,566 spectators, sheltered beneath a roof unlike any in this world. The immense canopy was a folded plate structure with 8 thin shell units. Each formed 4 hyperbolic paraboloid slabs joined in a V shape. Together they created an origami-like roofline that seemed to float above the bay. At 326 feet, it was the longest cantilevered span of concrete on Earth at the time. The roof was supported by just 8 massive slanted columns, angled like stilts driven into the shoreline. From every seat, spectators could look across the man-made basin, Biscayne Bay, and the Miami skyline with a completely uninterrupted view. The engineering was as radical as it was aesthetic. The folded plates acted as continuous slabs, leaning on each other for strength, while grout-filled joints locked the structure into a single soaring form. The stadium's design was as much about openness as it was about spectacle. The cantilevered canopy provided shade and shelter, but also framed the horizon, turning the water itself into a stage. The floating performance platform anchored into the basin completed the illusion. Audiences could arrive by land or sea, their boats clustered like an aquatic amphitheater, which is awesome. For nearly 3 decades, the Marine Stadium was alive with motion and sound. It was host to hydroplane races, the Orange Bowl Regatta, and immortal music legends like Queen, The Who, and Ray Charles. Even Elvis Presley's 1967 movie Clambake immortalized its dramatic silhouette, but even with its stellar design, it was no match for Hurricane Andrew in 1992. After the devastation, officials declared it structurally unsafe and the gates have been closed ever since. The stadium became a canvas for graffiti and nature has slowly started to take its course. In 2018, the stadium was listed on the National Register of Historic Places, so today the Marine Stadium stands silent, though efforts are underway to determine if it can be brought back to life. Its 8 great columns still hold aloft that impossible roof, its folded plates still defying gravity. Until then, it stands ready for the day that Hilario Candela's vision will once again echo with life across the waters of Biscayne Bay.
But the stadium saved itself. It said, I'm strong enough and withstand even the test of men.
Named for an important figure in the hotel and casino industry, Sam Boyd Stadium once stood on the eastern edge of the Las Vegas Valley. It was a concrete horseshoe that grew and shifted right alongside the city it served. While Miami's Marine Stadium was celebrated for its bold modernist design, Sam Boyd Stadium was utilitarian, adaptable, and always in motion. Opening on October 23, 1971 as a Las Vegas Stadium, it boasted a modest 15,000-seat bowl built to meet a city with big events. But in just a few short years, the stadium would see a significant expansion. In 1978, it doubled in size and was renamed the Las Vegas Silver Bowl. By 1984, it carried the name of gaming pioneer Sam Boyd, and in 1994, it was simplified to what most people remember, Sam Boyd Stadium. The late 1990s brought its largest expansion to more than 36,800 permanent seats, with room to stretch past 40,000 when needed. Adaptability was the hallmark of the stadium. A retractable artificial turf system installed in 1985 let the stadium transform quickly from a football field to concert stage to motorsports arena. And for nearly 50 years, it was the beating heart of Las Vegas events. It was the home of the University of Las Vegas Rebels and the stage for the Las Vegas Bowl starting in 1992. The AMA Supercross Finals were born there in 2011 and continue to this day. For nearly 2 decades, the Monster Jam World Finals have wowed audiences. Even music legends have left their mark there too, such as the Grateful Dead for 5 years in a row from 1991 to 95, and giants like U2 and Paul McCartney filled the stands. Even professional football made a brief stop with the CFL's Las Vegas Posse in 1994. When the NFL arrived with the Las Vegas Raiders and Allegiant Stadium in 2020, Sam Boyd's time was up, and thanks to a no-compete clause in UNLV's agreement, the show was officially over for the stadium. The Rebels played their last game there in November 2019, and the Las Vegas Bowl closed the curtain a month later. Since then, the stadium has sat quiet, slipping into disrepair. In 2025, Clark County purchased it for $5 million with demolition on the horizon. But after nearly half a century of memories, Sam Boyd Stadium definitely earned its place among other iconic stadiums in history. The Richmond Coliseum rose in the heart of downtown Richmond in 1971. Designed by the nationally prominent firm Vincent Kling & Associates of Philadelphia. It was part of a sweeping city planning effort of the 1960s, meant to invigorate the downtown core with a bold modern anchor. From the start, the Coliseum was striking. Its oval-shaped superstructure of metal and brick earned it nicknames like the Big Mac and even Spaceship. And Kling tried to tie the building into its surroundings. The red brick on the exterior matched the adjacent historic Blues Armory, while the crenellated monitor along the roofline mirrored the Armory's fortified silhouette. The design on the inside was equally dramatic. It featured a 360-degree concourse framed by tall red brick Roman arches, giving it the look of an ancient amphitheater like the Roman Coliseum. Overhead, a sweeping shallow dome supported by crisscrossing steel beams gave the arena its distinctive atmosphere. The layout of the Coliseum spans 6 levels, with seating for about 13,500. One of its most innovative features was the Clay Street Tunnel. The tunnel allowed tractor trailers, monster trucks, and other large vehicles to drive directly onto the event floor. For nearly half a decade, the Coliseum was a regional hub for sports and spectacle. It was home to the VCU Rams men's basketball team from 1971 to 99, and it hosted the ABA's Virginia Squires and ECHL's Richmond Renegades. Beyond sports, it became a cultural landmark. Elvis Presley performed there in 1972 when the stage welcomed stars from Garth Brooks to the Foo Fighters. Crowds packed in for NCAA tournaments, WWE wrestling, professional bull riding, and countless other high-energy events. In 1993, the Coliseum gained 2,500 seats and 2 luxury suites. A decade later in 2003, a $7.1 million renovation refreshed the scoreboard, sound system, concourses, and seating while refurbishing its suites.
It's not your parents' Coliseum. We've got new energy, we've got new colors, we've got new sounds, new sights.
But by 2019, no amount of investments were going to save the Coliseum. The city of Richmond had larger aspirations than the old and faithful Coliseum could handle. It wanted a more modern venue like other big cities. The final scheduled event was a Harlem Globetrotters game in December of 2018. The doors were shuttered quietly in February 2019, and sadly a redevelopment plan was voted down in 2020. The city has since declared the property surplus and budgeted for demolition. The site is slated to become part of the city center redevelopment project with plans for a convention hotel, housing, retail, and green space. The Mid-South Coliseum broke ground in 1963 and first opened its doors in October 1964 on the historic Mid-South Fairgrounds in Memphis, Tennessee. Built at a cost of $4.7 million, the Coliseum differs in a way politically unique compared to others. When it opened, the Coliseum became the first racially desegregated public facility in Memphis. The architects made that commitment clear, designing the building without separate entrances or facilities. In the heart of the Civil Rights era, the Coliseum stood as a beacon of progress. While known universally as the Mid-South Coliseum, the arena earned a few nicknames during its history, such as the entertainment capital of the Mid-South and the house that Lawler built, a nod to wrestling legend Jerry Lawler. With around 10,000 permanent seats and room for over 11,000 for basketball, it was a flexible, hard-working venue that became home to the Memphis Tigers basketball team from 1966 to 91. It also hosted other franchises including the ABA's Memphis Pros, TAMS, and Sounds, along with a hockey and indoor soccer team. The Coliseum's impact culturally was immense. Few venues can claim to have hosted both Elvis and the Beatles, who played 2 concerts there on August 19, 1966, despite protests after John Lennon's comments about being more popular than Jesus. Elvis Presley's 1974 performance was recorded for the album Elvis recorded live on stage in Memphis. Michael Jackson and the Jacksons launched their Triumph Tour there in 1981, and rock band Judas Priest filmed their live Vengeance 82 concert video inside its walls. But for a generation of fans, the Coliseum was synonymous with professional wrestling, the place where storylines and legends came to life. Because of its sturdy structure and deep historical significance, it earned a place on the National Register of Historic Places in 2000, but the Coliseum's era came to a close in 2006. Competition from the new FedEx Forum and the high costs of meeting modern ADA standards made it financially unsustainable to continue. Since its closure, proposals for demolition, often tied to plans for a new soccer stadium, have been met with strong resistance from preservation groups like the Coliseum Coalition, who continue to fight for its restoration and reopening as a community asset. Today, the Mid-South Coliseum stands silent but not forgotten.
Cooper. Got room.
Football and the American South go together like hot dogs and baseball. Since 1927, Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama, affectionately known as the Old Gray Lady and the football capital of the South, has stood as one of the great landmarks of American football and a reminder of the South's love of the game. Legion Field opened on November 19, 1927, with Howard College, now Samford University, facing Birmingham Southern College. Built for $439,000, approximately $3.4 million today, with a starting capacity of 21,000, the stadium was named in honor of American Legion, serving as a memorial to those who had served the nation. Over the decades, Legion Field grew dramatically. The expansion in 1947 roughly doubled the seating capacity to 42,000. Additional expansions increased the capacity to more than 83,000 at its peak, making it one of the largest football venues in the South. However, in 2005, the removal of a structurally controversial east side upper deck reduced the official capacity to about 71,594. Legion Field created an impressive resume over the years. For decades, it was home to Alabama's biggest college football programs. The Alabama Crimson Tide played here until 2003, all but until 1991, and from 1948 to 88, the stadium hosted the legendary Iron Bowl rivalry between the two. Today, its anchor event is the Magic City Classic, the annual clash between Alabama A&M and Alabama State, which continues to draw massive crowds and tailgating traditions. Professional football also left its mark. Legion Field hosted more pro teams than any other stadium in North America, but beyond football, it became a stage for global events. It played host to soccer matches during the 1996 Summer Olympics, setting an attendance record of more than 83,000. But the glory days of Legion Stadium are long gone. Even as its longtime tenant, the UAB Blazers, moved to the new protective stadium in 2021, Legion Field refuses to fade into obscurity. It continues to host the Magic City Classic, high school championships, and community sports. The city of Birmingham still invests in its upkeep, recognizing the stadium's historic role as it approaches its centennial in 2027.
When I first stepped into RFK Stadium, I knew I'd found a home.
Even politicians in the US love a good show from time to time. Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Stadium, more commonly referred to as RFK, stood for more than a half a century as Washington, D.C.'s great multi-purpose arena. Opening on October 1st, 1961, as the District of Columbia Stadium, it was hailed as one of the first of a new generation of cookie-cutter venues, circular in its design and built to host both professional football and baseball. It was designed by Dallas-based firm George Layton Dahl, Architects and Engineers, Inc. The project broke ground in 1960 and cost $24 million, which was 4 times more than the $6 million estimate. In 1969, the stadium was renamed in honor of Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and it later became home to some of Washington's most storied franchises. The NFL's Washington Redskins played there from 1961 to 1996. Major League Baseball came and went twice, first with the Washington Senators in 1962 to 71, and later with the Nationals from 05 to 07. In 1996, Major League Soccer arrived as the DC United made RFK their home for more than 2 decades, leaving in 2017. Stadium's original football capacity was just over 56,000. By the end of its life, it seated about 46,000 in its soccer and football configuration, with DC United later reducing capacity to around 20,000 by closing the upper deck. RFK was also a global stage. It hosted matches during the 1994 FIFA World Cup, bringing international crowds to the capital. The stadium's final major event came in 2019, but by then its aging structure and shifting sports landscape had left it behind. It sat empty and unused for a while until demolition began in 2023.
Commanders fan CJ Jackson was so stunned by what he saw as he passed by RFK Stadium, he stopped to take photos right in the middle of her shoot.
Why do you want those pictures?
For memories.
Completion is scheduled to conclude in the fall of 2026. The area is slated for redevelopment, with tentative plans for a new covered Commanders Stadium and surrounding commercial redevelopment projected to open around 2030. Taken together, these stadiums and coliseums form a kind of an unofficial atlas of American life in the 20th century. They were built as civic monuments, expanded to meet the demands of booming cities, and filled with the sounds of football rivalries, championship dreams, concerts, rallies, and community gatherings. And while some await a new life or eventually meet the wrecking ball, they still serve as historic reminders of their importance to the cities and fans they serve forever. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you hit the like button, comment down below if you remember or have ever been to any of these stadiums, and we'd love to hear about it. We'll see you next time.